We've covered laws that will change July 1st. We've covered changes for kids in education, changes to Idaho's housing laws. But there are also a handful of changes that are random and can be hard to keep track of. So we went to the lake, to the lottery counter, and even up in the sky, so you know what to expect. Drivers and bike riders, listen up. There's new rules of the road, or at least they're even clearer. Idaho code better defines e-bikes now after a court ruling had created questions about whether drivers had a legal duty to avoid e-bikes. So now when you're out and about and you see them, treat them as a vehicle or a bicycle because they share the same rules. And if you bike around town, this one will help cities pay for projects like these. This new law allows federal grants to be used for bike projects and pedestrian projects because a previous law made it a little bit more difficult to use that federal grant money. More money for bike projects is one thing, but another thing is more money in your pocket. Businesses now have the opportunity to round to the nearest 5 cents. So what that means is if they owe you $10 and say 2 cents, they can give you that if they have pennies. But if they don't, they can just give you $10. What if it's $10.03? Well, they can give you $10.03, or they can give you $10.05. And with that 5 cents, well, you can buy a scratch-off lottery ticket. And if you win more than $3,000, you could also be subject to an investigation if you're on SNAP benefits. And depending on how much you win, well, you could end up losing all of those SNAP benefits. Shoot. Now that we've talked about big change, let's talk a small change out on the water. Law enforcement that would be patrolling the area now has to have reasonable cause that you violated a law before stepping aboard your vessel. Before that, they didn't have to have any sort of reasonable cause. And if you're the one behind the boat, maybe that's water skiing, wakeboarding, or even the one in the tube, you might not need that third person. New law says that the driver, if they have a rear-facing camera, now doesn't need that third person to say, hey, they fell out of the tube. Whether it's at the lake or maybe right here in the mountains, Idaho made changes to how long you have to live in the state to qualify for a lifetime hunting or fishing license. Instead of just 6 months, you have to live here for 5 years. And if you're a hunter, more specifically a wolf trapper, you can now use Wi-Fi or cellular cameras to check on your traps. But if you hunt big game or game birds during the regular hunting season, you can't use those trail cameras. And you also can't use nighttime vision, thermal imaging, or even drones. It's also a no-fly zone when it comes to drones over Idaho correctional facilities. That law now makes it a crime to operate over restricted airspaces. IDOC and law enforcement can also mitigate the drone if they pose a threat. And that's not the only thing that lawmakers are concerned with up in the sky. The state's cloud seeding program now faces new reporting requirements in an effort for transparency of what's happening up there in the sky. It was a busy day for us today, to say the least. Okay, most of these laws probably won't change your day-to-day life, but depending on whether you're spending your summer on a bike, in a boat, or in the backcountry, you might just notice a few of them.